Good afternoon, and welcome to the AFS Best Practices Leadership Webinar. Thank you for joining us, and our topic today is 2021, a year for transition, leaving LIBOR behind. This webinar will be approximately an hour long, and our host for the webinar is Dean Snyder. Before we get started, there are just a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. We have several polls today, and we would ask when you see the polls to please participate. Your responses are anonymous and won't be seen by the attendees, just the total results will be. We encourage questions. Please use the Q&A feature to ask your questions. We'll leave time at the end of our prepared remarks to answer as many questions as possible. We are recording today's session, and tomorrow you will receive an email with a link to listen or download the presentation. Thank you for joining us today. Dean?
Thanks, Renee, and welcome everyone to our first webinar for 2021. We're looking forward to a big year, a year of positive change, hopefully leaving 2020 far behind us. And today, we're going to talk about leaving LIBOR behind. We're finally at a point where we can start talking about, or maybe seeing, the end of this long journey transitioning away from LIBOR. So I'll give you an update of what's happening with AFS, and Charles Wambua will join me with some latest news updates around SOFR and other alternative reference rate news. And then most of today will be devoted to our survey. We've got a lot of respondents and a lot of great information. I think you'll enjoy sharing the survey results today, and we have interspersed that with some live polling questions so that we can keep this more interactive. So first, from an AFS update, apologize, I have this nagging block there, I'll move. So we are moving forward, made a lot of progress in 2020 with updates to Level 3 and AFS Vision, a lot of work around compounding and arrears, adding new fields, updates to statements and notices, and most importantly, the calculations for compounding interest and arrears, both the rate calculation and the balance calculation that AFS has completed. And we've delivered this, I think, to almost all clients, whatever version that they're running, making it as I want to say easy as possible. I don't know if I should use the word easy with SOFR in any sentence, but there's a lot of progress that we have made, and we're hearing very positive results from our clients who have already started the testing of the new code. Some have even signed off the code for being production ready. And in a few minutes, we'll have some survey responses that will give you an idea of where the banks stand in their readiness for end of life of LIBOR. Some upcoming developments, as we talked about, I think in our last webinar, AFS is moving forward with adding additional capabilities for observation shift. And there are two different methods that AFS is supporting for observation shift. One was an original method introduced by the ARRC committee, and then a second method emerged from ISDA. And as we debated the different types or methods, in the end, AFS decided the best thing for our clients would be to support both of these observation shift methods, and we're moving forward with that work. We are also doing work in the area of assignments for your syndicated deals. So if you are selling or trading positions, and there are some additional updates to support assigning positions that are in the middle of a SOFR contract. And that's when we get into that real high level math that certainly I'll let our team discuss with you as you start getting into that area testing and working with that. Also, you know, we have a new capability with AFS Vision, which is a fully operational trader workstation. So again, as we go into supporting loan sales and trading and providing the funding memo, dealing with cost of carry, deferred comp, and so forth. There is obviously work to be done there if the loans are SOFR based, especially doing compounding and arrears, being able to support the trading of those positions midterm. So we're continuing to work on that. We have been assisting our clients, as I said, with the installation and testing of the SOFR code, and we're continuing to participate with the ARRC's Bank Loan Operations Working Group. I just noticed today that we got the invitation for the first meeting of 2021, which is next week, and realized that it's been almost 2 years to the day since we participated in that first ARRC committee meeting up in New York. It's hard to believe it's been 2 full years of talking about LIBOR and SOFR. And as I said, we're looking forward to coming down the home stretch here in 2021. We've also had some lingering questions around negative rates, right? And based on our clients' feedback to this point, AFS has the support of tracking the negative rates. We stopped short of doing negative accruals on interest because the belief from the clients was that the all-in rates or the accruing rates would still, when you apply spreads and spread adjustments, would always be something 0 or greater. Starting to get some questions about a possible need that some of the accruals, especially to support some swapped and derivative products, may have to actually accrue a negative amount. So I wanted to ask our attendees today, our first polling question, which is, as part of SOFR, do you anticipate needing to actually accrue a negative interest amount to support some of your loan products? So Renee, I believe, has opened the poll, or maybe I need to do that.
Nope, Dean, I have the poll open. It's and we have people responding. So if we want to just give it another minute or two.
Right, we know this whole topic of negative rates seems to come and go, and certainly following the, I would say, the mood or the waves within the financial markets. And I'd be curious to see what everybody thinks at this point in time about the need for additional support of negative rates in 2021. So do we have some results, Renee?
We do. And I'm going to share those on the screen. So what we have is 46% have responded yes, and 54% have responded no.
Ah, very interesting. So the yes numbers have definitely come up from some of our previous polls and discussions. So we're going to continue to closely monitor this situation to see if any additional support might be needed for AFS. So now I'm going to transition over to the latest update on LIBOR in the news, and I'm going to hand off to Charles Wambois to give us that update from the industry. Charles?
Thank you, Dean, and hello, everyone. So I'll start with current industry news around SOFR and what we've just been, the feedbacks that we've been getting from the ARRC or our direct clients. So the first one is, I know this conversation came up recently around the Tom Sonia loan. Now, as we know, the ARRC has been saying that the forward-looking Tom SOFR rate will not be available for a while. But then recently, the Sonia group, actually, the ICE benchmark administration, they actually started publishing a Tom Sonia for 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, and 12 months. So what makes that significant? When we look at the fallback language that has been talked about for a while, the very first option is a forward Tom rate. Now that Sonia market has started publishing and people in the industry can use it, then that also goes to push the ARRC to make sure that they're able to provide one as soon as possible. As of now, they're targeting mid-year this year, so around June 2021, and we hope that that will come to fruition. The reason being, as much as we're talking about compounded rates and just daily simple SOFR, which will be, you know, in terms of notifications, for example, you'll start having 22 to 30 lines, right? It might not be also easy from an operations perspective. If they provide a TOM SOFR, then it would make things very easier to operationalize, because the same way we support LIBOR today, for example, a 1 month or a 3 month LIBOR, whereby we have the rate and it stays static for the duration of that repricing cycle, we would use a TOM SOFR in the same manner. So transitioning your loans from current LIBOR to SOFR, it will be much, much easier, faster, and easy to operationalize on a day-to-day basis. So we're waiting for that news. We hope that can come through by mid-year this year, just to make things easier for the industry. So that was good news to hear. Secondly, we've been hearing a lot, especially as we came to the end of 2020, around tough legacy loans. We know the problem around that is because of the legal terminology and the legal requirements that with those loans, they do not have an alternative to use another reference rate. So if LIBOR was to cease, then they would have to come up with a quote unquote zombie rate, right? And with that, you know, some people have said it will not truly reflect the true LIBOR rate at the time. So there's room for like legal action or legal consequences around it. So in those conversations, it led to, it's part of what led to the third bullet point around the ICE benchmark, once again, allowing or rather pushing for the LIBOR contracts for 1 month, 3 months, and 6 months, 1, 3, 6, and 12 months to be pushed out to June 2023 in terms of when we expect that LIBOR to start being published by the panel banks. So with that being said, that we hope that most of the tough legacy loans will fall off or rather mature prior to June 30th, 2023. Then that means we'll only be left with, hopefully, just a little stub of loans that will have to go through that legal process. But also in the meantime, between now and June 2023, we hope that there'll be better legislation that will come up to best handle that remaining piece after 2023, after June 2023, for the tough legacy loans. So that's the hope. At least most of them, we hope that they will mature by June 2023. The other news that we've been hearing in the market, and this is just to support and make the financial institutions more comfortable with the transition. There was news that Freddie Mac processed a credit risk transfer with a 30-day SOFR index, and hopefully when the forward term rate gets published by the ARRC around June 20th, they can easily transition. So that should give people comfort that, hey, people have actually started using SOFR-linked rates for their loans. We also heard that JP Morgan also executed a swap for $500 million tied to a SOFR swap, right? So that's helping push the market or make the market more comfortable that, hey, don't wait, especially with the extension. Don't wait until the extension to start transitioning your loans. There are other people, other market participants out there who already started doing their transition or originating new loans using SOFR rates. Okay. I discussed on the other slide about the extension of USD SOFR to June 2023. The only difference is that for the 1 week and the 2 month LIBOR that even today is not used that much, those will still have a deadline of December 2021 this year. Also, the euro, sterling, and the Swiss franc, and also the yen, their intention was to also cease at the end of this year. So that announcement to push out to 2023 does not affect them. So we'll still expect them to cease, those LIBORs to cease in 2021. Okay, despite that extension, what the ARRC is saying is they'd already printed out best practices for the market, and they had suggested that the existing, any new LIBOR loans should start being originated as we get to June 2021 in LIBOR, and we should start originating them in SOFR. So that's also still to save time instead of having to wait until just because of the extension. And I know there was a panic around it, but still they stick with their best practice recommendation. It's not a hard stop of June 30th, 2021, but if practicable before the end of the year, please have your start originating your loans in SOFR. All right, can we go to the next page? Now, from a trading perspective, just a few things have changed really in terms of delay compensation and cost of carry. Delay compensation will still be the same in terms of the calculation. It's just that we'll be using daily rates in this example, as opposed to like that static rate when you're doing simple interest or compounding rate. When it comes to cost of carry though, we were used to, in the LIBOR world, even though you have a 1 month or a 3 month or a 6 month LIBOR contract, when it came to cost of carry, we would use the 1 month LIBOR tenor to get our rates. Going forward, we will be using daily SOFR rates. You might have a compounded SOFR, but when it comes to the cost of carry calculation, you're not going to be using the daily compounded SOFR rates. You're literally going to be using your daily published SOFR rate. So that's important to note. When it comes to bilateral loans, remember the whole concept about observation shift and its complexities. And then another discussion came around in terms of having an effective hedge or a perfect hedge. And that was deferred to the bilateral loans on the hedge loan approach, meaning if you have a hedge, with the swaps, then you will follow the swap concepts in your interest methodology. There is the interest methodology rather. So that's a little bit different from what the ARRC had provided in terms of your regular interest calculation based on observation shift. For example, even though we're doing observation shift, on the ARRC side, there was that recommendation for a 5-day look back. With the ISDA side, their conventions only allow for 2-day look back with a payment delay. So that's one concept that is different. And also the sequence of calculating the interest is a little bit different from the one from the ARRC. So the reason why we're bringing this up is to say yes, we've listened to the market. We've done the calculations. We know what the clients need, what the market is doing, and AFS is actually developing this to make sure that we can provide it to our clients who want to do that effective hedging with the swap side. So that will be available soon. The last point is about, this came up recently and it might confuse some people a little bit, but so Bloomberg has started publishing the spread adjustments. They're still indicative. We're waiting for, I think they said sometime in February, the FCA will make an announcement and in terms of a LIBOR ceasing, and that might cause a trigger. So we're waiting to see exactly what they will be saying in February, hopefully in February, and we'll determine if the rates will be fixed at that point or not. But anyway, in terms of what Bloomberg is publishing, something to note is that if you have a loan, let's say you have a simple interest going for 30 days and you have a compounded in arrears also going for 30 days, the spread adjustment that will be used there will be the same. So those are two different variants of SOFR, but they will share the same spread adjustment. If you had a 3-month tenor, that will be a different spread adjustment. But in the same example I just gave, where you have a simple and then you have a compounded in arrears, that spread adjustment will be the same. So that's something we found interesting that came up in recent conversations with the ARRC. Yeah, so that's what I have as the latest updates coming from the industry on our SOFR world. And like I said, at this point, we're definitely, rather from an ARRC perspective, we're definitely coming to the very last bit of any conventions updates. Okay, thank you, Dean.
Thank you, Charles. And now we're going to hear from you in a way by reviewing the survey results that we received. Again, thank you for everyone who participated. Started out with some easy questions such as, your LIBOR transition, are you on schedule? So it looks like we're doing pretty good. That at least 2/3 of the respondents are saying they're on schedule. A third said mostly on schedule. Nobody is behind schedule, or nobody's willing to admit that they're behind schedule, but this is all positive news. There's a lot of progress being made in the market. So do you expect the recent announcements about extending the LIBOR retirement date to impact your current LIBOR transition plans? And again, we see a large percentage that are seeing the transition will be extended based on that date. I think that's kind of a natural reaction, but also giving the banks a little bit more time, a little breathing space to make sure that we all get this right. Which of the following best represents the amount of time your organization will require to complete your LIBOR transition? So this is a question we get a lot. How are we doing? Are we on schedule? How's everybody else doing? To complete the transition, you'll see 56% said it's still going to be another 12 months. I think this takes into account not just your system readiness, but the ability to rewrite contracts and other contractual changes that have to be done, and that this is a long process. It's not all going to happen at once. And of course, with the LIBOR expiration date pushing back now to 2023, I think that also, as we said on the previous question, provides some breathing room. We wanted to talk specifically about the new loan documentation, because that's a critical part of this. And what's the timing to get that done? So now we're seeing a higher percentage saying in a 3 to 6 month time frame from when that starts, that would be the average time it takes to complete the the documentation changes. So very few banks, 22% would say 3 months or less. Most are 3 to 6 months or even greater than that. Then we asked about the amount of time it would take for each individual customer sign off for each deal or each contract. I know this is a hard question to answer, and I think your responses reflected that the largest percentage were not sure the amount of time, because it probably does vary from customer to customer. But we wanted to see what the results might be, and you can see that beyond not being sure, the highest percentage, the 28%, was in the 1 week to 1 month time frame to get those changes completed. We go back to the overall transition and the time that it's going to take. We wanted to ask about any delays you're experiencing. What would be the biggest factors for those delays? Now, again, interesting here that 59% of our respondents are not anticipating major delays, that they're able to stay on schedule. And then beyond that, we've got kind of an even spread amongst other factors that could contribute to delays. Certainly the ARRC committee, if we start here at the first column, the ARRC committee's inability, I guess, to come up with final recommendations sooner certainly contributed. And COVID-19 priorities, we know that banks are very much consumed in many different activities, whether it's P3 loans, deferrals, and others, just dealing with social distancing and remote staff and so forth. So it's not surprising that that is a significant factor. The number of loans, of course, to deal with, 23% indicated just the sheer volume because of how many loans are LIBOR based. And then, of course, we have some that are talking about loan documentation and preparation issues, as well as customer sign off. We wanted to ask about how you're communicating with your customers. And again, this is a question we get asked individually from our clients quite a bit. So we allowed multiple choice answer here to this. And you'll see, first we said, as far as communicating with borrowers, would you send a general notice for all transactions? At 50%, that was the highest number, would be a general communication or notice. And then 44% indicated it would be something customized, whether that would be, for example, each lender possibly contacting their own accounts or direct emails or so forth to the lenders. Some of them are being done on a facility by facility basis, some on a deal by deal basis, as far as ways to communicate with the borrowers. So we thought it'd be good to ask you a live survey question here, which is, which of the following best describes your readiness with the LIBOR cessation process? And Renee, you're going to bring up the answers, and maybe you can read them out for everybody as we get the poll respondents.
Yep, so the responses that you can choose from are ready with no further requirements, a work in progress, but requirements are complete, in process, and welcome input from others. So if we can get everybody to put the responses in, I'll give it a few more seconds, Dean, as people are actively responding.
Good. We're going to let Renee take a minute here. Unfortunately, I'm not able to see the responses, so I'm going to let Renee go ahead and report back or read back for everybody what the responses reflect.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close it, Dean, and then I will share the results. And the results say that there are 7% of the respondents that are ready with no further requirements. 41% say that it is a work in progress, but requirements are complete. And 52% have responded in process and would welcome input from others.
Very interesting. Well, again, we will continue to look at this and see if there are additional ways that we can help our clients with sharing of information and so forth. We realize some of this can be viewed as proprietary, and certainly it's all voluntary as well, but we can look at this as for future webinars, can we gather additional information that you all are willing to share? That would be helpful. So thanks, Renee.
Yep.
So when do you think you're going to stop writing LIBOR deals? And I thought this was very interesting to see that the largest percentage, about 47%, have indicated they have a target date of second quarter, sometime in the second quarter, to no longer be underwriting LIBOR priced deals. We have a smaller percentage that's third quarter and fourth quarter, and interesting that 24% still are saying there is no official cutoff date planned. I'd like to think this is partially related to the fact that the LIBOR expiration was extended to 2023, and I think the market is still digesting that and how that's going to be factored in with what the cutoff would be. But I think second quarter, that's in line with what we had been hearing in our individual conversations with banks. A lot of people were looking at April, May, June, probably mostly June date to coincide with some of the guidance publications that come out, with that June 30th date. Has your organization entered into new loan agreements with a SOFR rate? So I thought this was interesting that as many as 33% of our respondents have been doing SOFR loan agreements. Now, what we're hearing is that those agreements are with a daily simple SOFR or other variant of SOFR, but not the compounding in arrears yet. That we have not heard directly of deals being written with the full compounding. But you can see the movement is certainly underway with utilizing SOFR as an alternative to LIBOR pricing. So along those lines, what rate would be applied? As I said, it's a daily simple was a large percentage, then the daily forward average. It does say here compounding arrears, we've got 17%, so it's possible there are some deals out there in the market, I guess, that have been set up in that way. So it's very interesting. Again, I think over the next 6 months, we're obviously going to see that number start to increase. Are you offering an alternative to SOFR, as clients have to move off of LIBOR? And a very high percentage, 72% of our respondents indicated that there would be an alternative to SOFR. And of course, the next question would be, what would that be? And you can see 90% who would offer prime rate as an alternative to SOFR, and ARRC comes in at 30%. So a pretty significant number that are looking at the ARRC rates. Now, again, our understanding of ARRC today is that is fully supported by AFS as I'll say just like another index rate. It does not come with special requirements such as compounding and arrears and so forth. So I think it's good to see that is one of the options, and you should be able to support that out of the box today. Charles talked about the publishing of the forward-looking term SOFR rate and how important it is today. And of course, very important was the number one response, 46%, which again would be consistent, I think, with being able to operationalize easier and more effectively by doing that. A few banks said, it's 8% of them said that we have to have a forward-looking term, which is interesting. And yet there were a few that 15% who said that probably wasn't going to be important. I think because banks are positioning themselves to support all the other different SOFR methodologies. So while forward-looking term would be helpful, it's not necessarily a requirement, which I think would reflect with some saying it's not that important to their institution. Are you using SOFR rates to hedge your loans? So 54% indicating yes. SOFR rates are used with a hedge, 46% no. Along those lines, what kinds of loans would be hedged? And we were curious to see, was this concentrated in the syndications market or not? And I think there was a pretty resounding answer that no, this is not just limited to the syndications market, but would apply to all types of loans, both bilateral and syndicated. So if you're hedging bilateral loans, will you be applying observation shift? Again, Charles was explaining some of the details around observation shift, and we mentioned that there's two methods that we've been labeling, the ARRC recommendation versus the ISDA method. And we're seeing, I think, validation of our decision to support both methods because 50% of the respondents said they would want to use both the ARRC and the ISDA method. 17% said just following the ISDA guidelines, and then a third that I think are not planning to do the observation shift at all. But again, that is being supported by AFS in both level 3 and in AFS Vision. As we talk about the conversion of loans from LIBOR to SOFR, are banks planning to use automation of that, or are they being done on a really loan by loan basis, meaning a manual basis? So the manual basis was 21% here, fully automated 15%, but the larger 64% middle was some form of automation, right? Because I think, again, the complexity and all the different things involved in doing this, there is some form of automation that can be applied, but it's challenging to do the fully automated, and our hats are off to those that are able to do that. But as you can see, that's the smallest percentage. So we have a few polling questions here towards the end of our presentation. And these also have come from recent conversations with our clients, especially around billing and notifications or communication. So Renee, we're going to go ahead and start with the first question.
Yes, I have. Sorry, go ahead.
I'll let you read it.
Okay. Which of the following best describes your FI's changes to SOFR-related billing statements? The response options are no changes to the bill, changes only for SOFR compounding in arrears, changes for all SOFR loans, changes to all bills, and if you have another response, please send your comment to Dean. You'll need to email that to him. You can't send it to him directly on this webinar, but so we'll
collect those for an again. So as you're filling this out, I think one of the reasons for this question is we originally laid out some changes to billing statements, and actually this was one of those where we got together with the other major vendors and came to an agreement of what we think the new billing statements should not look like, but what data they should have on them, so that we had some consistency across the market. And so we, of course, have developed updated versions of our billing statements to provide additional data for customers, mostly around compounding and arrears, to help them understand how the interest is calculated. So as we rolled out those changes, we had heard from some banks who said they may not make changes to their billing statements and might use like a separate insert or something that goes along with it. So we thought we'd ask the question today. So Renee, how did we do with our responses?
Yep, so 19% said that they would have no changes to the bill. 25% have responded that changes only for SOFR, compounding, and arrears. 44% responded with changes for all SOFR loans. 6% responded with changes to all bills, and we have 6% who has selected other.
Good, that's very interesting to see. It's especially the 19% were saying they may not make any changes at all. So again, we'll continue to try to solicit information about what customers are doing, and we can share that in future sessions. The next polling question, go ahead, Renee, let's roll that one out.
All right. So our next question, does your FI plan to send targeted or generic notices to all legacy LIBOR loan customers? The options are yes, a targeted notice, yes, a generic notice, no notice, or other.
So go ahead and submit your responses here. Again, we're very interested to know what the impact on borrower behavior is going to be with this LIBOR transition. So I think part of that is to see how banks are approaching the communication with those customers, and how much do customers or borrowers understand about LIBOR and SOFR at this point in time in the transition process. So Renee, how did we do with our responses to this question?
All right, so our responses are, we have 41% who have responded that they are sending a targeted notice, 41% who are going to send a generic notice, 6% that are sending no notice, and 12% who have selected other. And if we could ask if you could share those with Dean by his email, we'll then be able to share that after the fact with everyone.
Yeah, and I'd say I'm not totally surprised with the answers, and 40-some% in both of those first two responses. You know, and part of this is, you know, with AFS, those that are using AFS Level 3 and AFS Vision generally are running many different loan types or many different lines of business on the AFS platform. And I venture to say that your approach to customers could vary by size of loans, by line of business loans, or even geography or other factors that might come into play. Our last polling question today is how will your institution deliver notices out to the borrowers? I'd like to see, go ahead, Renee, you want to release that question with the answers?
Yes, I did. So the options to choose from are a physical letter, an insert in a loan invoice, email, web portal, or other. So I'll just give it a few seconds here, Dean, to collect the responses.
Yep, again, we've participated in some other industry sessions around COVID-19 responses and impact, and certainly we see it as a push to further digitalize the commercial lending process. And so this is one area of interest to see our banks taking advantage of other digital channels in the delivery. So I'm curious, Renee, then how do our responses line up?
Sure. Okay, so we have 20% who have responded that they will be sending a physical letter, 13% who are going to put an insert in a loan invoice, 33% that will be sending an email, 7% that will be communicating via the web portal, and 27% who have chosen an other option. So again, we would request that you would send what those options are to Dean, and then we can share them generally with the group.
Right, thanks, Renee. Yeah, I think as we collect some of these, we call the other responses, right? I said we'll take those all and assemble them, and we can organize a subsequent webinar where we can drill down more into these topics and probably open up maybe some more ways to have live conversations on that topic. So again, we appreciate your responses to these. So Renee, are there any questions as we reach the end of our planned material? Any questions that we can respond to today? Again, if we don't get a chance to, we will certainly have a follow-up with everyone.
Dean, no, we had no questions so far. I've just sent a reminder out to folks to let them know where the Q&A section is, and to, if they have any, to send them. So
okay, that's good. I know we might have a shy group today, but I understand we had well over 160 people register for the webinar today. So we appreciate that response. I think it helps confirm that this is certainly a very important topic for everyone. We will continue our webinar series, not just on LIBOR and SOFR transition, but we also have coming up in January, we have our joint product with the RMA, the Risk Analysis Service, or RAS as it's better known as, will be having their update webinar. And that's scheduled for the 28th of January. Again, you can go to the AFS website or Facebook page, other places to get those details and how to register. And then our Best Practices Leadership Council next webinar will be on pricing fundamentals. And I think this will be a very interesting session as we review 2020 results around commercial lending pricing trends. And that is scheduled for February 4th. Again, you can continue to stay in touch with AFS. With our website, we join us through Twitter, through Facebook and Instagram. So we are offering multiple ways to stay connected through social media. Certainly, we wish everyone a very happy New Year, a prosperous 2021. Yes, Renee?
we actually did just get a question.
Okay.
Okay, so is AFS planning to automate the update of the effectiveness test for the swaps that use LIBOR and they switch to SOFR?
I may have to phone a friend for Charles if you understand that question, because I'm not as familiar with that.
So the new method that we're doing for the swaps, or rather there is the side, will still be, the functionality will still be the same in terms of you're going to enter your loan details and your interest charge details in the system. So it's not going to be something that is automatically connected to your swap platform or something of the sort. So I hope I'm answering the question, but yes, what we'll do is, one will be able to enter the loan details. You'll feed in the rates from system admin, and our vision system will calculate the interest for you on a daily basis up until the accrued due date, until the last day. And then when you compare that to the rates or the calculations on your either Bloomberg or any other platform that you're using for your swaps, you should see that they should match.
Great. Well, thanks, Charles.
Yep.
All right. I think I'm about at the end of our program for today. Anything else, Renee, I should add at this point?
I don't think so, Dean. We have no other questions, and you've covered our upcoming webinars, so I think we're good.
Well, thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.